Here's what happened. I've now learned a new word. It is called doomer, which is like dun dun dun. I want to put that at the end there. Doomer. It is connected to this negativity undercurrent that is fueling burnout in Gen Z and millennials. How I found out about this word, because I've gone down the rabbit hole with it, I found out about it through a conversation between two people I've mentioned before, Brett Cooper and Chris Williamson. And when I heard about this word and then I got the definition of it, I feel a majority of people could relate to some part of that definition. And there's one word we're going to focus in on that I believe connects then to the second red flag of burnout that I've talked about, which is negativity in your work, negativity in your personal life, and then negativity with the world overall. So we're going to unpack all of that, how it connects, and then I'm going to share with you the 3 plays to help you move through this negativity current. This is Make Burnout Extinct podcast. I'm Robert David Weeks. Let's get started today with defining this damn thing, this word. How it originated for a word was through 20-something men. That's where I think of the millennial generation, my generation, of how it started. It's now become widespread in Gen Z, and it's been with other generations as well. Like I'd argue it's also affected them. I feel it's something that's just always been there, but with the internet, it amplifies this even more for awareness of like this is out there. And I want to make sure we're addressing it, figuring out ways to work through it so that one, if you're in it right now, you're not feeling alone. And it's just a world I wouldn't want to live in for majority of us being in this type of state. So here we go. Here's doomer. This is from Urban Dictionary. It's a person with a pessimistic outlook on life. A doomer feels a sense of helplessness and aimlessness and is often stricken with deep despair for life. For a doomer, life is meaningless and the world is inevitably doomed by humanity's ignorance and greed. The word with that, because I mean it's intense. The word that I want to focus in on is helplessness. That one I believe is this negativity undercurrent that is fueling burnout in Gen Z millennials. That message can be compounded on the internet. For me, how I relate to it is I felt the helplessness leading up to my burnout in 2018 with the conference. Like 2 things that stuck out to me was the lying. Like I was lying a ton to myself, to my team, to the community. And those lies were adding up where I was feeling the heaviness on my physical body. And I didn't know how the hell I was going to even share the truth. Like I thought I was going to keep that to the grave and not share it with anyone. I go back to I've talked about this story before of how I told my parents I'm not okay. Like that for me felt like the opening of the doorway of sharing the truth and sharing what the hell was going on in my life. But at the time I felt that sense of helplessness that I was out of my control and I'm stuck with having to hold on to all these feelings, suppressing the feelings that I feel with that come up for me. And the second one where I felt helplessness was with the debt that I was racking up. I was racking up debt by signing these contracts that I didn't know what I was signing, collecting thousands of dollars in debt. And I didn't know at the time how the hell I was going to pay this from my own actions. And I felt so overwhelming and insurmountable that I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with this. And that for me was another moment of helplessness. Where we get into real trouble is when we give up completely for all aspects of my life. And all aspects of your life. Like that's where if we give up on that and we get into this doomer identity, that is something I wouldn't want on anyone to have to experience. Because luckily for me, I still felt like I had control in certain parts of my life. And you do. Like we all have the capabilities and the skill set to do that. One area of focus for me was health and fitness, just working out made a difference for me as I was on my road to recovery from burnout, because I didn't change course until I hit burnout. And I go back to the quote of, or that saying where an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And that goes for burnout too. If we can address it at the beginning before we hit those red flags and then we lead to burnout, it's a lot easier than after. And for me, I waited till after and it was a lot of pain there. But on my road to recovery from the burnout, what helped me was working out, like just moving my body on, like going on a walk made a big difference. So it ties into one of the plays. I'll go through the 3 plays with you of how you can work your way through this negativity undercurrent. But I want to address something that, an idea that Chris Williamson shared that hit for me. and I feel it's going to hit for you. It puts this in perspective for why it could be easy to go into cynicism and this negativity when it comes to work, like why that could be so easy. So I'm going to read it here, and then I'll share what resonates for me. Here we go. This is the cynicism safety blanket. Cynicism is a guarded response which sets yourself up against disappointment. Its role within the system is to protect you against experiencing anything bad. It is a preemptive strike against a perceived threat. If I tell myself that all women are bad, then I'm less likely to seek a relationship with women, and as a consequence, I'm never going to feel the pain of rejection. If I tell myself that everything is shit, or that things will never get better, then I'm excused of ever having to try at anything. The cope is framing hope as pathetic and embarrassing, and optimism as delusion. If everything sucks and everyone is horrible, and reality is disappointing, and you know that for a fact, then it's the people acting like things can be better that are dumb, delusional, and the problem. The upside of never trying is never having to feel the pain of failure. Yeah, that one hit. I gotta keep it up so I can refer back to it. I feel with my generation of millennials and Gen Z, this has become a major force in a major focus for us. That the last one like just hits. The upside of never trying is never having to feel the pain of failure. Like I felt that I after my burnout, it for me was a feeling of failure for myself, my mental and physical health, and like exhausted, being in debt. Like I felt such a failure, and it was such an intense pain that I then reverted to like taking years to try again, to put myself out there. If that's in relationship, to put myself out there in my career, my work, and like getting embarrassed. And that took years to, but what I learned through that was how much capabilities I have as a human being, how much strength I have within me. It opened that and revealed that to me. My confidence from facing the challenges and moving through those challenges was worth all of it. All the burnout, all of the embarrassing moments, all the struggles, the challenges, the feeling of 10 years as an entrepreneur of just like getting by, not feeling like a quote unquote, like quote success. All of that was worth it to feel the confidence that I feel of facing the challenges and moving through it. And by reading this, I don't believe people in my generation, especially people in Gen Z, where it's being like amplified, because millennials, we showed the way for this. I feel people aren't even stepping into it, even getting started with these challenges. Rather, it's staying on the sidelines of life. And I remember this quote from John Butcher, a business mentor that I admire, where he was like, you don't want to be the driftwood just floating in the ocean and just letting the waves take you wherever. Like that's a place of reaction to life. And when we can take back a sense of control in certain areas of our life and then surrender in those moments where it's out of our control, that's such an awesome combination of the two. Like we don't have to be in extremes here. It's being able to create like an awesome synergy of the two that just makes life badass and awesome. And I want to make sure that we're changing this narrative of being able to face those challenges. I don't want it where all of a sudden people aren't even choosing to participate and jump into this thing, because it goes back to another line or another paragraph in this safety blanket that I want to highlight, which is cynicism is a guarded response which sets yourself up against disappointment. So it's holding ourselves back from even feeling that disappointment because of that fear that we have, and the fear that we feel that comes up for us that then causes us to feel that stress and that anxiety and that negativity. If we're not addressing it and we're just staying stuck in all of that, then it becomes chronic, which hits home on the red flags of burnout, which again, the first one being chronic exhaustion, which is a result from the stress that then causes the immune system to have it's the inflammation response that becomes chronic. And all of a sudden that becomes a vicious cycle that leads to the exhaustion. The second one of the negativity in our workplace that we can feel with our work and our workplace and our personal lives. Like when that negativity is there, And then both of those then equal terrible performance at our job. And when we feel terrible at what we're doing or feel worthless or meaningless, that then fuels the negativity even more in the cynicism. And it becomes, you're starting to see this cycle more and more of how these red flags add on to each other. And I want to share with you 3 plays that I believe can help you to move through this negativity current, to step into those challenges courageously, and to be able to move towards what you want in life, and to bring more fun and excitement and fulfillment into the work, but into life overall, which is what this is about. Because we're just one part, work is just one part of us, it's not the whole thing. And that's why I created this podcast, was to be able to help show you other avenues and other paths to address burnout, and not just coming at it from work. So the first play that I want to talk about is getting outside. The internet, I've talked about it, it amplifies the messages. So if you are feeling the cynicism, the negativity, and you're looking on that on the internet, the algorithms on social media, they're going to keep pumping you that information. And it's like going around that park that I was talking about of saying hi to people. It's going around that park, and instead of people saying, like, not saying anything at all, or like saying hi back, it's like as if everyone were to look at you and be like, why the fuck are you talking to me? Like, that's what it can feel like with the internet. It just amplifies that message, and you're getting it on repeat, 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 repeat. So that's not helpful, right? That's just going to feed into this negativity undercurrent. So I don't think it's important not to ignore what's going on in the world, like in the world, in the community, in the culture. Like, I don't believe in completely ignoring that, but you have to have the muscle to handle that. And if you are not able to handle that at all right now for the negativity, getting outside is a play that you're going to want to try. Getting outside, away from your screen. I get you, because I've been like at my max, I was 12 hours of screen time. And I remember looking at that being like, I gotta fucking change this right now. Like, this has to change. Like, are you kidding me right now? 12 hours? Like, it was ridiculous. I'm like, this is way too much time. I'm not about to be like, this is not about to be my life. So what I realized was getting outside could be really helpful, away from your phone. Don't have to take your phone. You can go for a walk around the block. You can just hang out, look at trees. Like, I do that. I vibe out looking at some trees for a few minutes. That's helpful. But what woke me up to this was, I believe it was a survey I'd seen, and it showed that for the average American, we spend 90% of our time indoors. And what that equates to for outside time would be, you would spend roughly 2.5 hours outside. And that'd be for your entire day, 24 hours. What I said to myself was like, okay, well, I like to like test out and document, okay, how much time am I actually spending outside? And what I realized was, when I did that process, I looked at it, I wasn't even spending 2.5 hours. It was more like an hour, maybe 30 minutes. So I had even more time than the average American indoors. So I'm like, that for me is alarm bells going off of like, all right, if I'm feeling this negativity and feeling this cynicism, like, I got to get outside, and I'm seeing I'm not doing that. This is a moment where I can take some control back and make a change and a shift. So I remember those early days of, I put as my daily habits. I have 12 daily habits that I do. This I learned from John and Missy Butcher. And one of them is to get 2 hours of outside time in. And there would be months where I would struggle just to do 2 hours. So it's not even like, I'm not even hitting this threshold of what was shared in the survey. It was a struggle. And there's one time where I remembered I had like, I think it was like 30 minutes left, and it was super late at night. It was like this cold day in Maryland when I was living with my parents. And I'm like, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to push through. And I remember just struggling to stay by with each day with no phone. Just, and if you want to talk about, like, if you think life's moving fast, step outside for 5 minutes, look at like a tree, and just stare at it for 5 minutes without moving your eyes, like, or just a wall, like looking in front of a brick wall. And you'll realize that time can slow down. And for me, it was that moment where I was like outside, and I'm like, fuck, like, I'm looking at my clock, looking at my watch here at the clock, and I'm like, this time is not going any faster. And it was a struggle. Like, those first few days, I remember getting pissed off, and I was just like, fuck this. Like, I'm about to have to do this for the rest of my life. But what happened was I stuck with it. I kept going. It was day in, day out. I was feeling like it was feeling shitty at the beginning, but then as a few days went by, it became a little bit easier. I then realized, oh, I could bring work out here that doesn't involve a screen, and I could work outside. Oh, maybe I could do a workout outside and bring my weights outside instead of inside. I could do some reading out here. All of a sudden, it opened up other ways that I could spend time outside. And right now, where I'm at with it is 4 hours. So if you're doing better than 4 hours, awesome. Like, hell yeah, you're doing better than me at this. But if you're doing less or even less than like the 2 hours, realize that you can expand the amount of time that you're spending outside. It is absolutely possible. Right now, I'm at 4 hours. I try each month to get 90% of those days in the month completed for this habit of 4 hours outside. And I'm starting to, this month is my first month of doing 4 hours. I had it at 3 hours. I was able to make that happen for the month. Now I'm at 4. We're going to see how it goes. I'll keep you, I'll keep you updated on this. I'm going to keep talking about getting outside, but that's play number one, is getting outside. No matter the weather, where you're at, make it happen for you. It's going to be a difference maker to get you out of this negativity undercurrent. Play number one. Now let's get into play number two. Let's attack it directly. This screen time. I told you, I maxed out at 12 hours. I remember like there's moments where I go through the scroll on Instagram. I'm just like looking through, being like, what the hell am I doing right now? Like looking through random shit that's popping up. And or YouTube is my other one that I go to. YouTube, I'll just go down these rabbit holes of videos. And I'm like, why am I learning about some of these topics? Like they do not relate at all to what I'm focused in on. And I'm trying to think of an example right now. And even one's not coming up, meaning I guess it wasn't important to even remember. If I can't even remember it right now, I just wasted hours on random stuff. So those are my two that really caused me to get stuck into this loop of like screen time. What has been helpful, this play I have just recently tried out for the past few days, and I like it a lot. It helps me because you have the ability to like limit the amount of time that you're spending on on certain apps. I don't like that because you're restricting it, but you also seeing the app. Like the app is right there on your phone, so it's a tough mental thing where you're seeing this thing, but you can't have this thing. I don't like that. So what I have done, and this can be a play that you can try to put into your burnout proof playbook, is to delete apps that you don't use, or that you use in your work day. Like let's say for me, Instagram, like I use that for work. Deleting all the apps that you use for work after you end the work day. And so one, it's deciding, if you haven't done this already, deciding when you're going to end the workday, because if you are working from home or on your screen and you don't have the ability from an office to like completely cut off, you could, like me, take your work home and then all of a sudden you could work like throughout the entire day. Like work will never stop. The key is for you to stop it and make sure you're having time for personal life and with family, friends, or a partner, or just for yourself, like chilling. So what I've done is deleted all the apps that I use for work after the workday, and that allows me to not go down the rabbit hole for certain things. Like Instagram is one for me, not to go down that, and it also, I'm not able to see it. So by not seeing it, I'm not even thinking about it anymore on my phone, and that has helped me to get into a better mindset, to feel a whole lot better about my day, because I still get into those negativity ruts. Like that still comes up. But for me, it's like trying to avoid spending a lot of time in that, like I used to at post burnout. So that would be helpful for you for the number two. It's not going to be perfect at first. Like I want to remind you, perfection does not exist. So you may like have to like sign into the app. You might be like, oh, I got to check this one thing real quick on Instagram, or on my bank account. If that could be one that you use for work. Like whatever those apps are, I get it for where you may have to go back to it, but it's just every day is a new day to reset and focus in on this play. And so I want to be able to remind you that you're not a failure if you don't get it right the first time. There's nothing wrong with you in that. It's just you got to keep at it and work on it becoming a new habit. So that's play number two. Now I want to share with you the final play. And this is somatic breaks in between your work tasks. I've talked about this before with somatics. So that's like body based. So being able to reconnect with your body. For me, having a somatic teacher and friend, Annabelle, helped me with reconnecting with my feelings as a man was really powerful to not suppress it, because as men we get this messaging where like if we have problems or challenges that it's on us, like that we're the issue. Like that, like we don't get a lot of care and sympathy in that realm of like trying to create support systems externally within our society. It's more like what the fuck are you doing that is wrong, and fix it. So I was, with that, being able to connect to my feelings was a moment for me to be able to work through a lot of the negative feelings that were coming up for me that do serve a purpose, but also if I have too much of that, it's going to lead me to burnout, and and if I don't address it and suppress it. And with somatic breaks, it's these body-based breaks between work tasks so that you're being able to reconnect with your body throughout the day, because we can get a lot into the mind, but then the rest of body we can ignore, of just pounding through work. It depends on what type of work that you're doing. But if you're like me in front of a screen a lot of times, I can get numb in the rest of my body. And that's something I've been having to work on. So this is part of the Genuine Reset Day, which is one play that I use in my Burnout Proof playbook. I'll have to talk about it another time. But what you do is, let's say you finish a work task. Um, let's say for me, for example, I'll do it. I finished recording a podcast episode. What I'll then do is I will step away from my computer and I will go for a walk outside, just connecting to my body. I won't bring my phone with me. I'll reconnect, like I'll feel my feet on the ground. So, some days barely feel it. Other days I'm really intense on the feeling. And I'll just like walk and like reconnect and like feel where the tension is in my body, try to relax it. And just do that quick walk and then come back in. And that could be, it's like a 5-minute somatic break. Another one would actually be breathing. I really have been focused in on breathing. So taking a deep breath from the stomach. I'll even do that one right. I'll do it right now. And then release out, breath out through the mouth. And I'll do that for a few minutes, just deep breaths, hanging out. Maybe I'll vibe on the bed of just like chill vibes on the bed, or I'll go on the ground or stand up. So that'd be another way to do it. And what that does is it takes a moment for you to recover for your body from the intensity of a work task. So it gives your body a break, which is really important and helpful, because if you're just constantly going, by the end of the day, you're going to be completely exhausted. Like you're going to feel so exhausted. But it can also, but if you're able to take breaks throughout, that exhaustion level is going to go down a little bit. It won't get to the point where all of a sudden you're feeling like this is chronic exhaustion over time, because you have moments of break in your workday. And when those moments add up, you're able to really feel like you're recovering well in your workday to then show up at that high performing level the next day. And these breaks can be 5 minutes, it could be a minute, it could be 15 minutes. They make a difference though, and they'll stack up over time. So those are your 3 plays. To recap them here to help you out. The first one is get outside. Second one is delete those apps that you don't use, that you're using in your workday that you're not going to need in your personal life. Play number 3 is somatic breaks in between work tasks. And now the question I have for you is, which play are you going to try out for the next few days? Which one resonates for you? Are you going to try out all 3, or are you going to try one of them? Which one for you would be really helpful right now to continue to help you get out of it, especially if you're in it right now with this negativity current? It's realizing like, I get you. It's like, which one, like how, but we want to face it and move through it. And that's going to be really important with these 3 plays of helping to create that momentum for you to continue to move through it, and then reverse direction from moving towards burnout to making burnout extinct. So I get pumped about this stuff for you, because I will tell you, it's so much better to get it done before you hit burnout rather than at post burnout. So if you like this episode, please don't forget to rate this podcast to help get this message out and make burnout extinct. And you can share what resonates with you from the episode by connecting with my Instagram or LinkedIn. thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. This one hit home for me. And I hope with Chris's passage or Chris's idea, that also hit with you too. I don't take that for granted for you listening all the way through. It makes such a big difference. Excited to be able to reconnect again soon.